Hi there, friends. It's Leah. Looks like I am live, but there's a little bit of a delay, so I'm going to give this just a minute for people to find it, and I need to mute, so give me 1 second here. All right, so now we won't have that terrible echo happening. All right. Let me get this pulled up on my phone real quick. I hope everybody has had a great weekend so far. I just want to make sure. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Okay, so I got it pulled up on my phone, so I'll be able to see any comments that come through when I flip my camera around. All right, so since there's a few people on, I would love for you to just say hi in the comments and let me know that you are here. Hi, Crafts Captured. Thanks for joining me today. Of course, this will be available for replay afterwards, not too long afterwards if you are not able to make it live. Hi, Ruth. Hi, Ashley Lynn. Thanks for joining me. All right, friends. Well, so lives on my YouTube channel are a little bit different than lives on the Pinkfresh channel. Pinkfresh channel, I typically have kind of an idea of what I'm going to do. I've picked out the exact products that I'm going to use. The lives on my channel are a little bit more casual. So we are going to do some foiling. I've got my foil machine out and ready and it's all heated up. So we are going to do some foiling. We're going to do some layering stencils. Hi, I may say this wrong. You can correct me if I do. Lee K. Could be Ly K, not sure. Hi, Jamie. Jamie's my cousin. Happy that you're joining me today. Okay, so a little bit of foiling, a little bit of stenciling. Hopefully we'll get a card put together. We'll see. Like I said, lives on my channel, a little bit more casual than the lives you'll catch on the Pinkfresh one. All right, so before I flip this around, I would love if you guys gave the video a thumbs up. That just gives it more reach when it's live and on the replay as well. So that's just super helpful to me and I appreciate it if you do that. And other than that, we can probably get going because I don't want my machine to time out now that it's all heated up and ready to go. So let's just go ahead and get going here. Bear with me while I get this all flipped around. All right, so as you can see, my platform is ready. So we are going to do just a little bit of foiling today. So I wanted to foil the Celebrating You sentiments. I have these foiled in a lot of colors, but I don't think I had the blush foil. That's this shade right here, which I am like obsessed with right now. So I don't believe I had the blush foil when these came out. And that is, I did like a whole bunch of foiling at one time when our Celebrating You and Perfect Sentiments came out. So I don't have them in the blush color. So we're going to go ahead and foil them in blush. So I have a version of them in blush as well. And then after that, we are going to grab the solid hot foil plate and we are going to do some reverse foiling with some extra pieces that I foiled in my live this past week on Facebook for Pinkfresh. I have a couple of pieces that I need to get done with the solid foil plate. So we're going to take a look at the solid plate in action as well. And maybe if you haven't seen it yet, you'll get to see it in action or just brush up on some tips. I think I put some lotion on my hands right before this and it transferred a little bit to my foil plate. So I'm going to try to wipe that off there so I don't run the risk of any foil transferring onto that foiled plate. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and hit the timer button. And while the timer button is going, I'm just going to get a little bit of foil cut out. Now, if you're not familiar with the Celebrating You set, there is a coordinating one-piece die, the hot foil plate, which is on the machine. And then if you don't have a foiling system, we did do a one-piece stamp set for it as well. So best of both worlds, you can use any option. Of course, if something can be foiled, that is probably what I'm going to do, just because I really love to foil. So let me get some foil trimmed down. There's lots of fancy way, or there's specific cutters out there, and I do have that specific cutter, but I have actually found that I just prefer to use my good old Fiskars trimmer that has the wire guide on it. I just find that to be the easiest way to trim foil down. So, but you can trim your foil down anyway. That should be long enough. Sure is. Okay. So I just trimmed my foil down to about 6 inches. That is typically always the size I trim foil down when I'm using these larger plates. So these larger sentiment plates and like our background foils as well. Hi, Cheryl. Thanks for joining me. I'm glad you were able to make it. All right, timer's ready, but I'm just going to give it a little bit more time to warm up here. And I'm going to grab my platinum die cut machine real quick and get it. I have a minimal workspace here, so we kind of have to make do with what I can show. I'll end up probably moving this over a little bit. So, okay, I think we're probably good. So one thing that I like to do is I like to remove the foil, like the part that heats up. I like to remove it from the base before I start doing any sandwiching. So that way it doesn't run the risk of shifting on me. So what you want to do is you want to foil, and you want to put your foil down pretty side down, and then go ahead and add your cardstock down as well. I like to use a larger piece of cardstock so I don't run the risk of foiling off the side or something like that. So you can cut your cardstock closer to size if you want to, but for me, it's just easier to do it this way. And I have learned that my bigger hot foil plates do require a 100-pound shim, just paper shim in it, to get the best results. And then I'm going to go ahead and just run it through my Platinum 6, a little slow and a little gently. Oh, Ruth, that's exciting to hear that you just got your foiling machine. I think you're going to have an amazing time. We foil a lot in our live videos and also in our standard process videos from our video team. So be sure to check those out if you are looking for tips or tricks or any help on getting started. Okay, let's see. What I like to do is I like to peel off just a little bit first to make sure that it looks like I got a good foiling, because the great thing about it is if you notice that you didn't get a good foiling result the first time around, you can gently put this back and try it again. But I got good results, so no need to run it through my machine again. I'm just going to peel this off. There's a tiny bit of overfoiling here and there. That's easy to remove with a brush. So I'm going to make a couple switches now. Oh, excuse me. So let me get my little tool here and get this guy off. And let's go ahead and get the solid plate on here, friends, because the solid plate has a really large surface and I want it to heat up for a little while. So I'm actually going to hit the timer button, but I'm probably going to remove this from the base, put it back on, and hit the timer for at least a second time, because I want this solid plate to get nice and hot so that it will transfer the negative pieces over to the cardstock really, really well. So let me real quick grab my brush that I have allocated to just cleaning up foiled. And what you'll notice is that any little place where you have just a little bit of over foiling, as long as it didn't stick to, as long as it didn't adhere too hard to your cardstock, it just removes right away. And then I have perfect results there. So some of the sentiments, because I did have a little bit of overfoiling in a couple of areas like the O's. So the solid version is not going to be perfect, but I think that it wasn't too much overfoiling. So in the end, I still think that they'll look okay. We'll see it when we do the negative piece and see how it turns out. I know that there wasn't overfoiling on every sentiment. So at least if a few of the sentiments turned out fine, at least you're making the best use of as your negative piece as possible, even if maybe you can't use every single sentiment. So I have 3 pieces of negative designs that I want to foil. So these were 2 from my Facebook Live this week with Pink Fresh. I want to get those done. I have not foiled since then. So I want to get those done. And then of course I want to foil the negative of the sentiments we just foiled together. So I'm going to remove this from the base and I'm going to hit the timer button one more time once it says platform ready, because I just like the solid foil plate to get really nice and heated up. So while we're waiting for that to heat up, let's take a look at some of the other things that I think I'm going to use today. So one thing that I love is we do a weekly promo every single week, and sometimes it's a little bit older product. And I love that because it gives me a chance to look back to products that I maybe haven't used in a while. And this week we have our standalone layering stencils with dies on sale for 25% off. I did put all of the information for that sale in my video description if you wanted to check it out. But I love, because I haven't used many of these stencils for a while. So I think I have made my ultimate decision. I think I'm going to use the Rustic Floral Wreath stencil and die set in a little bit of a different way. So that is what I am going to, that's the stenciling that we're going to do today. Now, we're going to hot foil the negative piece of the arch bar backdrop. However, when I was getting ready for this release, I foiled a ton of them. And so it's possible I may end up using this lighter blue, but I don't really want to refoil it because I have, I already have it foiled once. So I may end up pulling that. I may end up using this more teal blue as well. I'm not completely sure yet, but you will at least get to see the arch backdrop in action for the reverse. And if you want to see it in action for the standard design, just go check out my live from Facebook this past week on the Pink Fresh Studio channel. Okay, so let's set that aside. We'll die cut it later. Need to make a little bit of room. Now, one thing to keep in mind while the timer is finishing up for the second time around, and that should make my hot foil plate, my solid plate, nice and warm. So we'll get good results. If you're ever feeling like you're getting bad results with your solid foil plate, first things first, heat it up a little bit longer. So just try to, get it a little bit hotter. That might be the issue. Also, I need 2 shims when I'm using my solid hot foil plate. I don't typically need multiple shims for my other hot foil, like the standard designs, but the solid one really needs some good amount of pressure. So I'm typically using 2 shims for my solid hot foil plate. This one is 100 pound and this one right here is 65 pound. So in total, I've got 165 paper pounds, cardstock pounds for shims. All right, so timer button is off. So let's try this out. First go around, solid plate. First things first, I'm going to pull it off the base. let's just go ahead and get those sentiments done since it's the first thing. And I just try to make sure that the sentiments are all on that solid part of the plate. And then I'm going to go ahead and put some cardstock over it. Like I mentioned, this is also kind of where that larger piece of cardstock comes in nice and handy. Sorry, that was a little loud. And then I'm going to run it through my machine. Now with the solid plate, I almost feel like you can never have too much pressure or too many runs through your machine. So I like to pass it through my machine back and forth a few times. And making sure you get all the way to the edge. That is just my preference. You can dial in what works best on your machine, but I found that's what works best for mine. Now, same as before, I always like to pull up just a side of it and see if I'm getting a good result. If it's coming up splotchy or if it's pulling up foil that you don't want to pull up, gently put it back and do the process again. And typically you will get next to perfect results that second time running it through. This time around, totally worked fine. I'm not having any foil being left behind anywhere. So really nice results. And what I have found is colored foils are a little bit more finicky than metallic foils. So like golds and rose golds, and actually the blush works really, really well too. But things like reds and pinks and sometimes the blues, although I have pretty good results with this blue one that we're gonna foil here in a minute as well. They might need a little bit more attention paid to them, basically. You may need to run it through more than once, but this one turned out really nice. So I've hit the timer on my foil machine again, so we can do this process again for the arch backdrop, this negative piece. This is called Moon Dust. It is iridescent tealish, I guess, blue, aqua, teal, from Spellbinders. It's one of my favorites of their blues. So we are going to go ahead and foil this next once the timer goes off. So, well, great thing about the solid foil plate is basically you get two designs out of one piece of foil. And that's the reason why we developed it, because we hated throwing away all of that extra foil. So love this. And it's just a really cool look when you have the standard foiled sentiments with the white background and then the white sentiments with the foiled background. It's just like a fun twofer design, I guess. All right, timer's gone off for the second time. So let's go ahead and put our arched negative piece, just making sure all of the designs, those little arch stripes or lines or whatever are actually on the solid foil plate. Oh, you're welcome, Ashley. I'm glad that it's proving to be helpful. All right, so then go ahead and put your paper down. Stay there. Add your shims, both paper and the shims that come with the machine. Once again, we're going to run it on through. Hi, Betty. Thanks for joining me today. Happy to see you here. Yeah, and the solid foil plate is a little, there's a little bit of a learning process to it. And there's a little bit to be said about you have to dial it in a little bit with your die cut machine. So I didn't get perfect results, out of the gate. I had to find the shim system that worked best. And that's how I found that my die cut machine specifically needs the 2 paper shims. Hi there. Studio Kato. I think your name is Lean or Leanne, if I'm right. Okay, so let's see how the arch backdrop turned out. Like I mentioned, sometimes colored foils can be a little finicky, but it looks like I actually got really good results this one. So there are a couple of pieces that are lifting up, and my suspicion is there might have been something a little sticky that happened, and that is not going to refoil if you try it again. So here's what I do when like a little tiny piece lifts up. So you can see there's that little imperfection right there. So a couple of things, you can trim it down. And so you will have less arches shown, but not a big deal. You can also just go ahead and use it. Like this is handmade, not Hallmark. So it's okay if things are not perfect. You could also put a frame over top of it. So we have lots of really great frame options that you could layer up on top of it, and it will just cover that little piece. You may also put flowers up there and cover up the small imperfections. But for the most part, it turned out really perfectly. And then, okay, platform's ready. We're gonna foil one more solid piece. So this is the negative foil from the sentiment I used on Thursday for my Facebook Live for Pink Fresh. So I wanna go ahead and get this foiled. So I have it foiled and ready to go. And I will just tuck it away in my tote that I have of all of my pre-foiled sentiments. So that's one thing when I have my foil machine out and I'm just crafting, I'm not crafting live, but I foil all the things. Like I go crazy foiling so that I just have a bunch of pieces done and ready to go on a card. Does this fit? Oh, no, not quite. I'm just looking for a little scrap piece of white cardstock to fit this sentiment. Oop, I think I found one that will work perfectly. Yep. All right. All right, timer's done. And then we will be done with foiling and then we'll move on to some ink blending. Thank you, Leanne. Yes, Betty, absolutely. You could also just put embellishment over top of it, like a jewel or a crystal, sequin, anything like that. Okay, so just go ahead and put sentiment in the pretty side down, and then I'm just going to make sure that I line this up so that the sentiment is fully on the cardstock. Shim it up and run it through our machine. We are done foiling for today. So I'm going to go ahead and click that off. Right, and I am going to run the sentiment through like the rest of them just a few times, just because like I said, the solid plate, I don't think it needs, or I don't think you can ever have too much pressure. A little loud. Okay, so I'll do some cleaning and move this out here in a little bit. You'll notice, okay, I got a little bit of foil on my, which one is this? The thin shim. If you ever want to clean these up, I cleaned mine up the other day with 100% acetone and it took it right off. However, it's a little smelly. So my suggestion is get the acetone, use the acetone to get that little bit of foil off, but then give it a good bath. So I washed it with warm water and dish soap, and then I dried it and I let it air dry for a little bit before foiling it again. To avoid getting a really very pungent smell when you heat it up and run it through your machine. So just a couple tips on cleaning up your plates. So let's see if this one worked, and it sure did. So I don't need to run it through again. So now we have the negative version in blush of that You Are the Best sentiment. And I will die cut this later because I don't think I pulled the die out for this guy. I didn't really think about that. So I will just set it aside for later and I will do that. But I'm going to do a little cleanup because like I said, I don't have tons of room. on my work surface. So I'm going to just go ahead and set this aside to cool while we get going on other things. So how about before we get to doing some ink blending, let's get our sentiments die cut out real quick. So I'm going to go ahead and die cut both of these. And then I will put them all away later, but I'm not completely sure which sentiment I want to use yet either. So I'm in desperate need of updating my cutting plates here, but they're on the way to me. So I'm just going to have to make do with plates that are a little warped. I don't love using plates that are warped with one-piece dies like this, just because you do kind of run the risk of them shifting in your machine, but we're going to see. Hopefully it will work out. I'm going to tape them down really well in hopes that they won't shift in there on me. So I'll probably put a little bit more tape on them than I normally would, just to be on the safe side. Now take some time to line these one-piece dies up. And I'm sorry, a little bit of this is off screen, but I want to make sure that I do the best job I can to line them up because they are big dies. And so you can't just really slap it on there and then expect that you're going to have good results. So definitely take a little bit of time to line these up. Okay. And then I am going to tape down in a few areas here. I would probably typically only use those 2 pieces of tape, but because my plates are a little warped, I am going to just be a little bit extra cautious here. All right, and here's hoping it stays in place, friends. All right, ooh, are we good? Great, so let's just go ahead. You know what? I think it might do better on this side. Yep, there we go. Okay, make sure I didn't move anything. One thing that I also feel like helps is when you tape it down, look at it straight on to make sure that you feel like you did a good job of lining it up evenly around those sentiments. I think sometimes the one-piece dies can be a little bit misleading, especially when you're putting them on at an angle. So just another tip when you're using those one-piece dies and trying to get them nice and lined up. Right. So there we have perfect little sentiment there. I love it. No one compares to you. So I'm kind of in the toss-up between you're the sweetest and no one compares to you and the you are loved sentiment. All right, but I'm going to go ahead and pop the rest of these out real quick. So this sentiment has some where some of the words are separate, are on a separate layer. So definitely keep that in mind. Like the you did it is all 3 different. And then I think there's one that says so proud of you that goes together. And I go back and forth on if I like that option or not, but the great thing about it is you can actually leave off the so if you just wanted to use the proud of you, but you can also change its location. So if you wanted to make it as, not as long of a sentiment, but a little bit, top to bottom longer, you can make some adjustments like that. So, and same with like the you did it, you can change the orientation of it. So, I think there's plus and minuses to both options on that. All right, I'm not going to worry about saving this tape. I'm just going to get new stuff out. Maybe I'll save that piece because it did come off relatively easy. I'm just going to use new tape, but I do need to get all the middles out. And so this might be a little loud because I'm just going to whack it to get most of them out. And I think I did. Perfect. I think I have a longstanding joke that she calls it the lazy way of getting the middles out, and I call it efficient. Okay, I think that this side might be better this time around. Yeah, I can't tell you all how excited or how ready I am for the new plates to come in the mail. I hadn't realized that I had used up all of my plates. So I was completely out of all of the pieces. So like the plastic shim and the magnet and the cutting plates, I think I have one. But I don't like to start a new one until I have the other new pieces, because they can cause warping on a new plate when they are a little warped. So I just like to do everything at once. And I do see here on the solid piece where I got the little bit of overfoiling on that initial one. But I think in the end, it will still be okay, because like I said, it's handmade, not Hallmark. And I think there will be enough foil, enough of a foil outline that it won't be super noticeable anyway. Okay, let me make sure I've got this nice and lined up. All right, well, I am lining up this die. I'd love to know what you guys are doing on your final day of the weekend on this Sunday. So let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear. Obviously, I'm doing a little bit of crafting time here with you guys, but I'm also doing laundry because I have a ton of laundry to get done. Let me verify that I feel like that looks good. All right, I think it does. Okay. It snowed here yesterday, so we got an extra coating of snow, and today it feels actually really kind of cold. But I mean, of course it is. It's Minnesota in winter. And then look at how fun those are. So here, let's compare. So here is the standard, and here is the reverse foil, and they both they look so different, but they are. I just love that you get the two options. I think that they each have their place. All right, so let's pop out the rest of them here. There's the No One Compares to You. So happy for you. And I'm not completely sure which version I'm going to use today. I'll probably keep them both close by. I'll just kind of shift them. Here is the You Did It. Oops. Not likely to use that sentiment today, so we'll just put those aside. Proud of you. And then you are loved. All right. You know, Leanne, I think that no matter what, for me anyway, is they shift a little bit in my die cut machine. Typically my least favorite sentiment in the set is the one that doesn't line up perfectly every time, which is the You Did It. And so I don't worry as much because the rest of them all turn out pretty much perfect. So, you know, it is. I just think that sometimes these big dies shift just a tiny bit because it lines up perfectly when I'm looking at it. And then I think they just shift a little. Laundry, cleaning, weekly spread in your planner, and crafting. Nice. 2 inches. Yeah, we got about 2 inches as well, Ashley, I think. And I think we're slated to get some more this week at some point. All right, I'm just going to set all these sentiments aside and put some stuff away, and let's do a little bit of ink blending. Yeah, so I had laundry like piling up. There's 2 of us in this house, but I think I create a lot of laundry. So, and it had been a little while. Okay, so I'm going to use the Rustic Floral Wreath standalone stencil set and coordinating die today. I'm going to use this in a little bit of a different way than just the standard. And you'll see what I mean by that as we get a little closer to it. But let's go ahead. So this is a 5-piece layering stencil set. You've got flowers and greenery, and then the wreath, the rustic wreath included on it. Okay, so there's that. All right, I've got my 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch panel here. And so the way that I like to do this, and there are multiple ways to, I'm trying to decide which, I like that side better actually. I like to tape my cardstock panel down to my surface. My surface is a glass media mat. You can use whatever your preference is on that. So I like to tape my cardstock down, and then I also like to tape my stencils down. That is just my preferred way to do it. My friend Heather, she actually tapes the paper cardstock and the stencil together so she can move them and flip them around as she does her ink blending. So, and some people like to use the corner of their Misty and line up the stencil and the cardstock that way. So lots of ways to do it. This just happens to be my preferred method. I like to use the alignment guides that we add into the corners of our stencils. And on our A2 size stencils like this, we put those alignment guides to match a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch panel perfectly. Now I think my cut on this cardstock panel got a tiny bit off. So I am going to default to the alignment guides on the left-hand side, just to make sure that I line it up properly each time. Cheryl, looks like Cheryl is crafting today. Oh, I'm sorry you weren't feeling very good last night, but I'm happy to hear that you're feeling better today. Oh, and you are having glorious weather. That's awesome. I mean, you're in Canada, I believe, correct? Man, I thought it would be like colder. So we've just been really cold here in Minneapolis. And it's weird because it will be really, really cold. And then we'll have like a random 1 or 2 day of like getting up into the high 30s, and then we drop back down. So it's just a back and forth winter weather for sure. Okay, so I did not actually grab my ink colors, so I'm gonna have to grab them as I go, but they're not too far away from me, so that's okay. So you all know I like to create, I like to do greenery in aqua shades. And so that's what I'm going to go with today. So stencil number 1 in the rustic floral wreath is the first layer of greenery. And so I'm going to ink it up in Mermaid Cove ink. We're going to go with the deeper shades of aqua, primarily because I really need to refill my aquamarine ink and I keep forgetting to do it. So I need to put that on my to-do list today, is just sit here at my desk for a little bit and do some ink refills on my ink pads. So we're going to do the deeper shades by default, just because I know they have a little bit more ink in the ink pads. Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. You are normally very cold. So good for you having a little bit more mild weather. All right. So if you ever frequent any of my lives on Pink Fresh, you know I tend to ink blend a little heavier in the center, and then I let it soften as I blend out towards the rest of the image. That's just my preferred ink blending style. It gives the image just even a little bit more depth than you will already get from the actual layers from the stencils. And I'm just wiping it down with a dry microfiber cloth right now. Oh, thanks, Cheryl. It's one of my favorite. I love our aqua color family. It's probably my favorite in the set. So I'm just wiping my stencil down with a dry microfiber cloth. That is primarily just so I don't get ink all over my fingers for now. When the live is over, I keep a bottle of rubbing alcohol on my desk, and I'll just spritz each stencil down a couple of times and wipe them clean with the same dry microfiber cloth. And that just gets any ink residue off. But it also allows you to either use them immediately or put them away because the alcohol dries immediately. So we've just found like that's a super easy way to clean our stencils. You don't have to do it that way. However, if you would rather take them over to your sink, you can also just clean them down in some warm water, warm soapy water as well. Okay, so I am just getting the alignment guides lined up here for the detail layer. Okay, I think I've got it. There we go. I was not lining it up very well. And as I mentioned, I didn't cut this panel very well. So I'm just defaulting to lining up the alignment guides on the left side. So Beth is saying it snowed just enough to be annoying. Yep, same here, Beth. And I think we will be getting more this week too. Okay, so then I'm going to move on up to Tidal Pond, which is the darkest in our tones. Now, if you're ever wondering if you are lining stuff up correctly, you can always look on the back of our packaging to see what these are supposed to look like as well. So keep that in mind if you're new to layering stencils or you're just wanting to make sure that you've lined everything up properly. Okay, and let's get this darker shade blended in here. Okay. All right, I think we're good on that one. I don't worry so much about the light, the dark to light blending on these pieces that are just a little bit smaller and they're more like the details. I just kind of blend them in. All right. Oh, look at that. Got a nice little gradation in there, a little bit of detail. And when I'm finished blending, I'll hold it up closer to the camera so you can see it a little bit better. So that was Tidal Pond. We are now switching over to the flowers in the stencil. So I'm going to go ahead and get those left corners lined up and get my stencil taped down. Oops. Let me do that again because I kind of jostled it. All right. There are our flowers. Man hasn't had any snow yet, which is unusual. That is a bummer. Actually, one of the, those few people, I actually kind of enjoy snow. I'm not super outdoorsy by any means, but I do like to look at it from outside my window. So I start to get sick of snow come like March or April. Okay, so I think for the flowers, I am going to go with my tried and true coral reef combo. I just think that will match really nicely with the blush foiled sentiments. So we're definitely going to do the reds, just the lighter reds. So kind of the corally red tones here. Okay. And these ones I do focus a little bit on ink blending, a little bit heavier at the center and a little bit lighter as I blend it out. Okay. And same with this. All right. Just a little bit more in there. Keep in mind, especially in these shades, that they do ink blend at first a little bit more vibrant. And then as the dye ink dyes the paper and kind of sinks into the paper, they smooth out and they get a little bit lighter and they just take on that really beautiful kind of creamy look. So keep that in mind because they sometimes, I know they look a little bit more vibrant in the live than after you see them photographed a little bit later on. Okay, so we've got stencil number 4, sorry. I don't know why. Went back to stencil number 2 there. All right, this is just the inside details of these flowers. And I'm going to ink blend those in passion fruit. Make sure this red brush has got as much clean because I think the last time I used it, I used candy apple and that's quite a dark red. All right, I think we're good. All right. So as you get further into the shades of our ink, they do get darker. And so I dab them off quite a bit and I just kind of I keep a light hand so that I can control how much blending is going on. But that's a personal preference. And if you want to blend them, you know, more heavy-handed, you certainly can. Okay. Thank you. I love this color combo too. It's one of my faves. All right, well, there is the start of these beautiful flowers. We have one stencil left. So I am actually only going to ink blend in the centers. And the reason being is we're going to use the coordinating die to cut this out, but then I'm going to trim it apart because I don't want to use this as a wreath. I just want to use the floral clusters. I like using products. I like using them in their intended design as well, but I think it's fun to stretch your supplies and use them in different ways as well. And so I'm going to cut them apart and we're going to use these just as nice little floral bunches rather than as a wreath, which is the intended way. So let's go ahead and grab out the third red, which is Berrylicious. Sorry, that kind of jarred for a minute. Thanks, Ruth. I appreciate that. And we don't need too much ink because one Berrylicious is pretty deep and these are small little details. Now, if you get a little ink in those, the wreath thing, not a big deal because we're going to cut them away. So I didn't worry about wasting tape to mask those because even if there's a little ink blending in it, I'm going to trim those away. So it's not a big deal. Okay. Reds make a big mess. So I always like to get those nice and wiped down before I touch the stencil. And let's take a look at how beautiful these flowers are. All right, I will clean these more extensively once the live is over. But for now, I'm just going to set them aside. I am going to go ahead real quick and clean off my brush. Just get some excess ink out of there. And let's take a look. As you can see, those little things did show up, but I'm going to trim them down. So now I've got these two lovely floral clusters. Let's go ahead and put some stuff away. And let's get them cut out. I think I've got the die right here. And then I do actually think I'm going to end up using the solid arch foil piece that we foiled together today. So I need to grab its die as well because I want to cut out that middle piece. We're going to go ahead and do a little bit of die cutting here. And I always have to remember which side this die goes with which side. It always takes me a minute to remember. It's not. Oh, it is that side. Okay, perfect. All right, let's grab cutting plate here. Just going to use those tape I used on the stencils. Let's go ahead and get these floral clusters nice and lined up. All right, I think we're good there. I'm just using the washi tape that I had used to hold the stencils down because they're not as tacky anymore as they once were. And then if they stick to my paper, I was going to toss them anyway. So they're getting a second use before they go in the trash. Thanks, friends. I'm glad you liked how the florals look. All right, so there is the start of our wreath. I will trim that down in just a moment, but I'm going to go ahead and yeah, that kind of stuck to the paper, so I'm not going to worry about saving it. I will just go ahead and toss it for now. We are done die cutting that piece. Now let's go ahead and get the middle cut out of this. Oh, first things first though, grab my wire guide trimmer and I'm going to get it trimmed down edge to edge here. So I like to use the wire guide trimmer because then I can just match it up with where the arches end on each side. And then I know it is pretty much right on for edge to edge here. Glad you guys are liking this card today or the pieces so far. We'll probably run a little past an hour for this just because I'm kind of a slower crafter and we did a few extra things at the beginning. So, all right, I'm gonna trim that down. Now we can go ahead and run it through our machine and we're gonna cut that middle out. And then when we cut this middle out, something that you can do because it's just basically now a foiled piece of paper, you can you cut like a die cut word from it or something and you'll just have a lovely foiled word. All right, so I'm just going to line this up nice and I just use that inside arch. Now for this one, I am going to tape it at the bottom because tape will pull up foiling. So I'm going to get it nice and lined up here. And then I'm just going to tape the die in place at the bottom. If it pulls up a little bit of foil on the bottom, I'm not completely sure if I'm going to keep this the width it is. I might trim it down a little bit more. So that is okay. That doesn't bother me too much, but I do try to minimize how much foil the tape actually touches. And then I go ahead and I hold my shims nice and tight as I pass them through my machine. And then in the end, we have this, and I see where it did a little bit too much tape on the bottom, but I think it's actually okay. Then we have this really fantastic arch, which is so fun, but don't throw that away because you could cut a word from it and have a beautiful sentiment. So I'm going to keep that, set it aside, and I'll find a die cut sentiment that I can cut from this. Okay, let's put these things away. Can probably start assembling a card of some sort. I don't know that I even have a card base ready, so we may have to do that together. Okay, I think I'm done with that, so that can be put aside for now. Oh, let's go ahead and trim this apart. So this just requires a little bit of fussy cutting. Not too big of a deal to me. Oops, I'm not doing it on camera, sorry. I try to mimic the amount of white that is left around the rest of the image, but there I need to cut a little bit of that ink blending off, so not a big deal if it doesn't match perfectly. Okay, so there's one. Let's go ahead and trim down the rest here. This one's gonna have to trim a little bit closer because I did get a little too much ink blending on the actual wreath piece that I don't want to see. Okay. And finally, one last little leaf. So relatively easy to trim down and fussy cut. Oh, hi, Doreen. Thanks for joining me. I've gotten through quite a bit of the process so far, but never fear, it will be available for replay shortly after this feed is over. This is going to be a fun card, guys. I'm excited. Okay, real quick, I wasn't technically planning on doing this, but I think that this will look really pretty with our new sparkling diamond background plate. So I'm gonna go ahead and create a background from this plate real quick. Thank you, Carol. I appreciate that. All right, so let's do this real quick. I'll just run this through my machine. Oh, well, those big plates are always a little bit louder as they make their exit from a die cut machine. All right, I can probably still use that little piece. I don't worry too much about the tape that's on the back, but you could always peel it off if you wanted to. All right. Thank you, Beth. I'm glad you were liking that too. That is kind of exactly what I think I'm gonna do. I kind of put it down here, but I think I love them flanking the top. Has a very feels a little bit like celebrations when you're in, if you attend a celebration in Mexico. I feel like this has a very look to that, and I may make sure to do my best to cover up that little flaw we have at the very top. Oh, you're stitching this panel? Oh my goodness. That is amazing. I can't wait to see what that looks like. I guess I would have never even thought to stitch it. So I'm excited to see how that turns out, Leanne. Thanks, Cheryl. Okay, so here we have it. So I am going to just make a quick white card base because I don't think I have one handy. I don't, so I'm just going to trim one down real quick. This will be off camera because my trimmer is just a little off to the side over here. So let me do that real quick. Right, I'm just going to do a white card base because I think that this goes edge to edge. So, and I'm not going to trim down that arch backdrop at all. Go ahead and get my card base created here. During replay will be available soon, but feel free to stick around and chat if you want to while I finish up here. Or you can wait for the replay. It's totally fine as well. Up to you. Okay. All right, let's start assembling. First things first, I need a little bit of tape runner. And we're just going to adhere this sparkling diamond background down directly to the card panel. Don't you guys fear, there's going to be dimension on this. We're just going to start We're going to start small. We're just going to start by layering. This is just a Gina K Designs tape runner. It's my favorite tape runner that's out there. Yes, Beth, I agree. Leanne, and please correct me if I'm saying your name incorrectly. I'm never sure if it's Leanne or Lean. She works hard. She does a lot of cards and she does a lot of interactive and videos and stuff. So, oh, is that not the prettiest little detailed background? I just love it, guys. I'm gonna give you all a little hint that we have more of these style of things coming up in future releases. So I'm giving you guys a little sneak peek here of what's to come. Well, not a sneak peek, a little sneak word, a little sneak message of some things that are to come on the Pinkbrush Studio releases. All right, so then okay, Lean, perfect. Thank you. I was totally saying it wrong. So thank you for helping me pronounce it correctly. I appreciate that so much. My name is often said incorrectly, so I totally get. I mean, I answer to pretty much anything, but yes, you guys, I love this background too. And it looks really, really, oh my goodness, it looks good with pretty much everything, but I really love how it looks popping out from underneath this fabulous arch. I think it's super fun. So we're going to pop this arch up so we get that nice little added shadow underneath it. Oops. Oh, Cheryl, I'm sure you will do great things with this background once it makes its way to you. All right, and so this is where I like to line up the top first because it's a little easier to line up. It's not as finicky as those little side pieces, not as flimsy, I guess. Perfect. So there we have our arch. So then we're going to flank the top of it. I love how it kind of looks like a doorway. So we're going to flank the top of it with our flowers, and I may not even worry about covering up that little flaw. It doesn't bother me that much because I do want these to be down a little further. And we're going to grab some foam dots for that. I have a few left on this pack here, I think. Let's see. So I think I will floof the leaves just a little bit, not too much. And then of course this, I did not make sure was clear. I've noticed that my liquid glue, especially this one, the Barely Arts, doesn't love the cold. And I have all of these windows over here and it is really cold right now. So it sits next to a cold window. So sometimes it kind of gunks up in there. So I think I'm going to have to clean it out. Yeah. Give me a second while I do that. This does this only in the winter, I have found. Spring through fall, we're good. But in the winter, it just don't think it loves the cold. Okay, so we got that a little bit pushed out there. Let's put it back in. I'll wipe down my pen. All right, and so that's how I clean that out. So if you're ever wondering how to kind of unclog your Barely Arts glue, that's what I do, and it seems to work really well. Oh yeah, and now it's coming out perfectly. Okay, so we're gonna place this one with a little bit of liquid glue onto the foiling. And so the nice thing about liquid glue is you have a little bit of time, it has a little bit of give, so you can make sure you get that flower placed right where you want it. And then this one I'm going to pop up with some foam dots here. Oh, yay, Doreen. That's awesome. I do want to make sure the foam dots are not going to hit the sparkling diamond background. So I'll put them towards the upper parts here. Okay, I think that's probably good. Perfect. Okay, before I do that, I'm also going to floof the leaves a little. And that is super fun. Super fun way to use a layering stencil set that was intended to be a wreath in a different way. All right, so we basically just have adding our sentiment and doing a little bit of embellishing to finish this guy off. So I am not sure if I want to do "You Are Loved," "No One Compares to You," or "You're the Sweetest." But I think those are my three options that I am wanting. I don't know if I love "No One Compares to You," so we're going to nix that one. I do like "You Are Loved," but I also really like "You Are the Sweetest." Just kind of tuck down here. And then do I want to do the standard, or do I want to do, I think I'm going to do the standard because we already have the negative foiling from the arch. So that kind of seems excessive. Okay, we're going to go with "You Are the Sweetest." And we are going to throw a little bit of foam tape just on the sides that I know will overlap here in sparkling diamonds. So it pops up off of the sparkling diamonds background. And then we'll just throw a little bit of liquid glue on the part that overlaps with the arch. Oh, good, Carol. I'm glad that you agree with me on the sentiment. And then a little bit here on the "You Are the Sweetest." And I think that's all the foam tape we need. Yeah, perfect. Okay. I am going to release this. Get the release paper off here. All right, make sure I've got this. So I'm trying to get this down nice and straight here. I should break out a my T-square or T-ruler, whatever that thing is called, but I think I'm just going to wing it. Okay. All right, there we have our sentiment. All right, I think finally we're just going to add a couple of embellishments. I think lately I've been a little obsessed with our sparkling champagne pearls, and I think that those will be a nice accent to this card. So I'm going to go, I think, with the 3 smaller pearl sizes. There are 4 sizes in the pearls. I think I'm going to stick with the 3 smaller sizes here. We're just going to do a few cute little trios, probably just the 2 trios here. Actually, you know what? We're going to make sure the bigger ones are in those little star. Ooh, I like that. Perfect. A little diamond shapes, I mean. Thanks, friends. Glad you enjoyed my card. Okay. Just get these guys glued down. And we are done for the day. I'm so happy you guys joined me. Appreciate it. Actually, yeah. Oops. Put it on the inside so that they don't overlap any. Okay, friends, there is my card. The fun foiling, the iridescent pearls. And I don't even care about that little mistake. Does not bother me. Thanks, friends. I'm glad you joined me today. I really appreciate it. I will put a updated supply list in the video description now that I have completed it and picked all the colors and everything that I was going to use for the day. Of course, thanks for joining me. I don't know, I'm kind of tempted to add some just like iridescent crystals or jewels on the flower centers. I'm not sure though. I might make that decision afterwards and you'll see when I photograph it for Instagram what I ended up doing. All right, I'm gonna get this flipped around real quick. Gotta brighten it because my front facing camera is very dark. All right. Well, thanks for joining me today. I'm so glad you guys stopped by and hung out with me for a little over an hour to create a card and do some foiling and some ink blending. Don't forget the stencil I used is on sale this week. So, and I just put all of that information in the video description. And other than that, that's everything I have for you. I hope you guys have a great rest of your Sunday. Great end of your weekend, start to your week. Take care of yourself. And hopefully, you know, there's quite a bit of time left in the day. So hopefully you're able to get some crafting time in. All right, everyone. That's everything. Hopefully, I'm going to be doing these more often. So just keep your eye out in my Instagram stories. If you haven't signed up for my email from my website, lealawsoncreates.com, if you sign up for email, I sent one out about 15 minutes before I went live, just as a little reminder as well. So feel free to do that if you would like to. And other than that, that is everything I have for you guys. So I hope you guys have a good rest of your Sunday, and I will see you next time. Bye.